Well, considering I got a little carried away and we're getting a little bit of a late start, I think we'll go ahead and just divide the program, and if you don't mind seeing my mug again for the second half, page 2, the other part of the story. But Randy asked me to, and I made myself a script so I don't get in the weeds and I stay on track. So I'm going to be doing a lot of reading because I can, off into the weeds I go. Randy asked me to share my studies on herbal remedies, specifically painkillers and antibiotics, since it aligns with this group's purpose of preparedness. Those two items are critical, but they are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to medicine off the grid. I will suspend the regularly scheduled program for a couple public service announcements. First and foremost, this is not medical advice. This is me sharing my experiences and my studies. Also, scrutinize everything I say. Take what works for you and let the rest go by. Just kind of cautionary notes with anything herbal, or if you're eating new weeds or anything like that. If you take anything internally, weeds are good. New weeds you want to be. If you haven't eaten a weed before, you better be careful. If you take anything internally, check with your healthcare provider. There's certain things that I know, contraindications, like don't eat like purslane or chard or spinach if you're on a blood thinner, because it's high in vitamin K and oxalates. So you have to be careful with that. Also, not that this affects anybody in this room, but you don't want to take sage if you're a nursing mother because it will dry up your milk. Things like that. Those I know, but I don't know all the contraindications. I know, I had to throw that in there. But I don't know a lot of the contraindications with a lot of the modern pharmaceuticals. So if you're on medication, before you start anything, even supplements, you really, really should check with your healthcare provider. Also, if you're going to use something externally, like a new salve that you've made or have bought, test a little place on your skin to make sure that you don't have a sensitivity. The inside of your arms are pretty sensitive, so that's actually a good indication to try doing. Not your face, no. The next thing I want to get into, and it was presented at the first aid class that we took, Good Samaritan laws. This not only applies to this group if you're out in an emergency, but it also applies to us as hams if we're helping with an event. And I will read what they had said. Many non-medical persons do not help in emergency situations because they fear civil lawsuits from victims or victims' families. On the slide you see here is the Colorado statute that protects you. Every state has some form of Good Samaritan laws on the book. As you can see, you are protected even if mistakes or omissions are made. And as the instructor said, something's better than nothing. It's better for you to try to help someone than just let them go, because they may not make it, but they won't make it if you don't help. Back to the regularly scheduled program. Functioning off the grid for however long a period of time needs a shift in thinking about medicine and medical care. It's not just grabbing the go box and batteries or firing up the generator at home, then living the same way we have when we were on the grid, just without the power company. I know, you're rolling your eyes at me saying, yeah, Luann, we know it's not the same as being on the grid. It is kind of a simplistic statement, but it's a little bit different when it comes to medicine off the grid versus trying to supplement power. Okay, with power issues, it's more of a one-to-one replacement dilemma. We don't have power from the power company, so where do we get our power? Medicine on the grid means having access to professional medical care and modern pharmaceuticals, something for which we are not trained. So for the short term in an emergency, we can have our stores of modern pharmaceuticals for our medical needs, but what happens, but while we have methods to recharge our batteries, what do we do when the medicines are gone? How do we move forward? The first shift in thinking that we need is you need to combine your first aid kit with your medicine cabinet. First, because you've heard me say go box, go bag, and medical kit. I'm going to define my terminology of how I organize my off-grid needs. Go box, what a lot of you guys have already talked about, is the radio piece. Radios, antennas, power source. Oh, I forgot power. Oh well, so much for proofreading. The go bag, which a lot of people call it, is more the personal items, including but not limited to food and personal hygiene. It can also have like shelter, things like playing cards, you know, whatever you really feel is important to have with you if you have to go out in an emergency situation. And for me, a medical kit, again, is your first aid, these guys, and your medicine cabinet, the treatment end of things. Okay, how many of you guys have first aid kits and go bags to go with your go boxes? Well, good. This was actually really good for me when Randy asked me, because we kind of had a couple of different first aid kits that kind of met our needs, kind of didn't, and we were talking about, so this kind of forced me to get organized and turn from that little plastic kit to something like this that you can just pick up. This was a $5 computer backpack at a garage sale. I like it because it sits up, has a handle, has this, you can just grab it and go in whatever situation you need. Now, our go box is real big. We have Star Drive, so. Yeah, we're cheating. Okay, as I've talked to Randy and Kevin, you guys have discussed first aid kits on the net, so I'm not going to go through building a first aid kit from each item up. Because there's plenty of online resources, there's YouTubes, websites, all sorts of other things that have ideas for building for medical kits. Here's another cautionary note. When doing research on the internet, scrutinize who built them and look at the resources real carefully. I know you've all heard this, but it does bear repeating, because letting the smoke out of a radio is a whole lot different than jeopardizing somebody's personal health. Okay, so the goals for this presentation, or at least part of this presentation, will be what do we want to take with us, what do we have on hand at home, and what can be sourced locally, and that's whether you bug out or you stay at home. What can you in your environment provide to help supplement this, especially if it's fairly long term and you need to replace some of the items that are gone.
If somebody lets the smoke out of my radio, they are jeopardizing their life.
Well, that's how it goes. Okay. Oh, that turned out really weird. Whether we're thinking of long-term medical situations or emergency situations, going off the grid for a bug-out maneuver, or just an excursion, dry camping for whatever reason, again, you need to rethink the idea of medicine. Western medicine has evolved into the silver bullet method of treatment. They develop super strong drugs to target specific diseases or other particular ailments. Although Western medicine excels at dealing with trauma, it has also left us dependent on an industry to take care of our medical needs. What happens when we no longer have access to those resources? Well, we have to take care of ourselves, and we have to approach it in a more generalist approach. And so the other thing that we need, another shift in thinking from medicine on the grid to medicine off the grid, is putting more emphasis on prevention rather than purely treatment. You don't want to wait until that cut gets infected and then treat the infection. You want to keep it clean, use salves, things to encourage it to heal before it gets infected. The same thing with pain. As we've all been told by doctors, it's best to stay ahead of the pain than get behind the pain. You don't want to play catch up on either parts of this. You want to make sure that because a body that's in pain doesn't heal. And that's actually medically proven. Okay, be prepared. I know, kind of a bit redundant telling you guys this, but in this specific sense, being prepared is being properly supplied, and that you have everything you need for when that emergency hits. You know, it's kind of staving off Murphy. So, supplying your medical kit. What we did, like I said, we found a couple of first aid kits that kind of had things we needed, kind of didn't have things we needed. What I did when I started getting really serious about putting together the medical kit is I went to medical supply sites on the website, on the internet, pulled the inventory from the military grade medical kits, compiled them, and just sorted through to see what I needed. You don't need 5 Israeli bandages. You know, they might in Iraq, but not here. And an intubation tube, I don't know how to use. I don't even want it in my kit. So, also what I found was anything that had combat printed on it or combat in the name was way more than I wanted to pay for. So you can put these together, and it starts out, I have a grand greedy list of, okay, and then I say, this is what I want, this is what I can afford. This might have to wait for a month or 2 down the road here. So another key component to your medical kit is to organize it in such a way that you can put your hands on what you need right away. What I did is I divided what I needed into like treatment areas, bandages, and then I love Ziploc bags. You can see through them, you can write on them, and if somebody's helping you, it's really good to label them to say, go get the bandage bag or go get the trauma bag. And so you'll be able to respond more quickly to what you need. As you see, I have my supplies divided into groups. Sanitation, I couldn't come up with a better name for it, but it's just keeping yourself clean. First and foremost, clean yourself up, clean the person you're working on up, then you start your treatment. I have trauma, which is, you know, the bad stuff, bleeding, wounds. Also, this is the trauma kit. In a trauma kit, I have snake bite. That was one thing that I could not believe was in not one first aid kit. So this is the trauma bag, and so it has, the one thing that hasn't come, that's the thing that was amazing. I ordered a blood pressure cuff and stethoscope from an emergency supply site 3 weeks ago, and not here. So eventually that'll go in here, and that's really good because especially with somebody that is had a severe injury, or if there's somebody in your group that has heart troubles, then you want to keep an eye on their blood pressure. Easy to do, and you can get on top of things before it gets too bad.
Bags like the one you're showing there, you can get those cheap at Jack.
Yeah, this is a courier or a messenger's bag, and the nice thing about it, it has all, you know, fun little pockets for things, and you don't have to go rifling through the big backpack. You know, you'd want to, and the other thing I tend to do, like I have cotton swabs and cotton balls in the bandages. I also have it in my sting and burn kit. So I know this is what I need. Open it up. I don't have to rifle through everything. Okay, let's see. You know, whether you buy one or you put one together, this is some things that I did on top of this to kind of amp up my medical kit and basically add to it and make it medical first aid and treatment. The sanitation, I was amazed. Soap. There's soap and water, soap and water, soap and water. You know, make sure that you're clean so you don't contaminate. You know, if you're working on a person that's sick and then you're working on with somebody else, make sure that you're not reintroducing crud to somebody else or to yourself. Fingernail brush, because yours truly likes to play in the dirt, and I have lots of dirt, so you know, make sure that you get all the crud out from underneath your fingernails. Betadine. Betadine wipes are nice, but they're not going to really be able to help you get somebody's wounds cleaned up. They don't prep you with isopropyl alcohol when you go into surgery. They prep you with betadine, so that's a really good thing to have. Shop towels I really like because they're tough, they're absorbent, and they're disposable. You know, so you can use them to clean things up and for bleeding. Also, nitrile gloves, swap out, and they're cheap. Yeah, they really are. And you can burn them in a fire or you can, nitrile gloves, swap out your latex gloves, three good reasons. Nitrile gloves are tougher and they resist tearing and, poking through holes in them. They are resistant to caustic materials, and there's a lot of people that are allergic to latex. So it's better safe than sorry, so you're not giving somebody an allergic reaction when you're trying to help them get better.
There are different levels of nitrile gloves as well.
Right.
Different colors.
Yeah, and you notice that a lot of the meds, they have black ones, and I have, in here somewhere, purple, there they are, my purple ones. Huh?
You just like the color.
I like the color. Yes, I do. Masks, both medical and dust masks. Again, you need to keep yourself healthy if you're going to be a healthcare provider for that. And also the dust mask, again, if you're dealing with stuff, so you don't get crud in your lungs, because you need to stay healthy first and foremost. Another thing that's really important, bleach. 12% solution, which is 2 tablespoons per cup of water, will kill anything. And bleach is the only thing that they have found that kills the AIDS virus. And so if it can kill AIDS virus, it can kill everything else. Another thing we found with bleach, when I was working at the greenhouse, we started using, bay trees are really slow to root. And we used a 12% solution of bleach, dip the cuttings in, and then put them, to root the cuttings. We went from a 20% rooting rate to an 85% rooting rate, because it got rid of all the contamination. Again, Ziploc bags. Yeah.
So on bleach, after 6 months, it starts to degrade. And what I found on Amazon.com was bleach crystals.
Oh.
So that's something to look into as well, because you mix it up when you need it.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
It is after it's been open and exposed to the air, but as long as it's sealed, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, again, you get your little food saver, divide it up into little packets, and that'll keep.
I have a question about the betadine. What concentration of betadine solution should we prepare to use?
Really what I use is, I use it as it comes. I don't get the concentrated, because betadine is, that's actually it's a brand name. It's Prova iodine, you probably know. It's a kindler, gentler iodine. It doesn't sting quite so much.
Flush it with it, make it tea colored with water. Any stronger than that is very damaging to cells.
I have a skin problem and my doctor gave me exactly the advice. Don't use
Too strong.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna scrub an area with it, you can use the full strength scrub. If you're using a solution for a flush irrigation, iced tea color, no screw.
These work really well. And I bet you have probably cases of these guys from, yeah. And these work really well for flushing, because you can pull up what you need, and you can get a fairly good stream of either saline or betadine or something like that to do that. Again, Ziploc bags and garbage bags also work well for putting contaminated bandages, zip them up, and it keeps the ickiness away from people, so you're not until you can dispose of it. Okay, that's interesting. With the trauma, a CAT, which is called a combat application tourniquet. Yeah, okay, I did buy something that had combat in its name. But the thing about the CAT tourniquet is it's small, it's simple to use, you can use one hand, and it's extremely effective. And again, that's another thing that's changed in first aid, is how you use a tourniquet. You put it on, you leave it on, you don't, especially if you're going to a hospital. It would be different, once you can kind of get the bleeding controlled, but you don't have to let, on and off, on and off, on and off. You're just basically encouraging that wound to keep bleeding.
And just in terms of cost, you can be able to get them online for about $10 a pop.
Oh, well, that's good. I found a place and they were 30, and I went, okay. The one thing that sticker shock, you talk about, come on, open up. I let my, blood coagulant, and there again, pretend that this has kaolin clay and cayenne pepper in it. The kaolin clay hasn't come yet. But if you look at combat gauze, or what they call quick clot, you're looking at a little package that's this big. It's 2 inches wide, 4 feet long, and you're going to pay $54 for it. Yeah, that was sticker shock. That went, All quick clot is kaolin clay. And I don't know if we can see this. Anyway, kaolin clay, and it's specifically kaolin clay, not bentonite or anything else, or like the fun little green Turkish facial clays, things like that. Kaolin clay, actually, they kind of misled us a little bit. They said it was a coagulant. It's really not. It works with the clotting cascade factor in your body and helps it clot quicker. So all the compact gauze is kaolin clay impregnated gauze. The one thing that I added to it, and it's kaolin, is cayenne. Cayenne is one of those really, really wonderful herbs, and it's 70 to 30 is what I mix. Cayenne is a coagulant, and you can use just straight cayenne pepper. And I've used it, and they say, oh my God, it's going to burn. Well, if you have a wound, the wound's probably going to hurt worse than the cayenne pepper. But this sort of stuff, this quick clot, do not use it. This is not for scrapes and bumps. This is for bad wounds, bleeders. If I read that a gal basically clipped an artery, and she put that in there, wrapped it up real tight. Again, pressure for bleeding. It works really well. The other thing that's really works well, I haven't used it on humans, but I've used it on critters, is super glue. That's a really good instant suture. Had to use it on a bird because it had a really bad cut, and birds don't have coagulants in their blood and they will bleed to death, so it was really fun trying to not to glue myself to the bird, but that also works. As Dave found out, boric acid and an eye cup. Use a lot of boric acid, because if you have something in your eye, you want to get it out. Poor Dave spent a whole day trying to get something out of his eye, but if you leave those sorts of things in your eye, it can cause permanent damage. It can actually go in, work its way into your eye, or just tear up your eye. So you really, really want to make sure that you get those things taken care of. And I wish. Powdered electrolytes, Gatorade, things like that. To have that around, powdered because it takes up less volume and weighs less. But as we have found out, Highland Games were those goofy sorts of people that dress up in wool and stand out in the sun in the middle of summer. Yeah. You get dehydrated, and you get muscle cramps, things like that. It's just really good to have around. Instant glucose for people that have diabetic blood sugar things. Sugar works, but it's sucrose. It's not glucose. Glucose is readily available. Crushed aspirin. I have little singles, little bags. I found some pill pouches at Kmart that are fabulous. Crush up the aspirin and keep it in just kind of like single doses. That's if someone's starting into a heart attack, you can give it to them. The crush gets into the system quicker. Again, another cautionary note. You put it under the tongue, and it absorbs. But the thing that you need to be very, very careful of giving anything orally to somebody that's in distress, make sure they're conscious and alert. Just because their eyes are open doesn't mean you want to give them, if they're having trouble and can't, you can, even with the crushed aspirin, you can run the risk of choking somebody. And syringes, like you said, these guys are really good for irrigating and getting stuff out of cuts and wounds. See how well? Okay, that one's now actually. Pete's going to love this. I have these really long bandages. They're called standing bandages. That with my horse, they have these little like quilts and really long bandages. They actually come in handy because you can use them for pressure treatment. If you have some swelling going on, you need to immobilize a joint, they work really great. The thing that I also found with bandages, rather than fiddling with safety pins or those stupid little butterfly things that the things bend, masking tape around. Again, learned that from my horse. Vet wrap. Don't buy the self-adhesive sports bandage or the little flesh-colored stuff that you get at Walgreens. Go to the feed store, go to the vet supply place and get vet wrap. There's also different brand names for that. Vet wrap is actually the 3M product. It's wider, and you can cut it down if you need to, and you can get it in any color you want, even purple. Styptic pencils really help with bleeding issues, and they're quick, so you don't end up, you can get the bleeding stopped before you get it wrapped up. The fingernail polish remover is, if you've ever got gummy tape on you and it's gross, it's a nice thing to just take fingernail polish remover. Of course, Phil says, well, just put acetone. Well, acetone, like the betadine, is a little strong, where the fingernail polish remover is already kind of diluted down to the point it's not going to hurt your skin. Again, huh?
Just don't get it in the one.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Yeah. 3 blocks later, you're going to be able to catch the person you were working on. With the pain relievers, the thing that a lot of them have cold packs. Here we go. They have cold packs, also hot packs. The instant hot packs. Dang it, I did it again. And acids, because if you're in distress and have heartburn, it's a good thing to have around. Arnica salve, I like having around. This, you can get these sorts of commercial varieties, good for sore muscles, bruises, things like that. Again, don't get it in a wound, because Arnica, they don't call leopard's bane for nothing. They actually used it in Africa to poison lions. So yeah, got to be careful. Also, another real good one to put in tinctures and salves is monk's hood. It's a beautiful plant, has a beautiful purple flower. They call that wolfbane. Yeah, you got to be real careful. External use only. I also make a warming salve. I'll get into that more later, but it's, well, next time, since we're kind of going to chop this one in half. Warming salve is actually ginger, mustard, cayenne, and black pepper. And it's good for if you have poor circulation in your feet, achy, cranky joints. You can also put it on your chest or your back if you have a really bad cough. And it is good. And then I make what I call liniments, the pepper, which is cayenne pepper, and isopropyl alcohol, again, external use only, and also a thyme and rosemary. This, I brought this along just to kind of demonstrate. This is, it just has the goop still in it. It has thyme and rosemary in the alcohol. You let it set until it basically, the plants turn kind of yellow and icky looking because it's pulled everything out of the plant. And you can also tell, and if you want to, you can tell because the essential oils is coming over the top of the alcohol, so that gives you a good indication that it be done, and you can just strain it out and use it. Another, stings and burns. Echinacea and activated charcoal, and I don't know what I did with it. Dang it. Here it is. Da-da-da. When you get your cheap Chinese radios, don't throw these away. Activated charcoal, grind it up.
Those little packets in the box?
Yep, it says active carbon deodorizer. It's activated charcoal. This is really good. You want it really, really fine, and you use echinacea tincture. Echinacea tincture here. Echinacea is another one of those really, really excellent herbs for all sorts of things. What you use that to make it into a paste for brown recluse bites, because the toxin in a brown recluse is it causes necrosis, and it will continue to work until it's treated. So your little necrotic patch of skin is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until you treat it. And this actually, what it does is it has an enzyme that breaks down the toxin in the spider bite. Yeah.
I understand medically they can only treat you one time for that in the hospital.
Oh, interesting.
So if this takes it and you're out of the hospital, that might be an also thing detention center.
Right, and it's good. The other thing that's really good with, and it's kind of the same sort of thing, you can take echinacea, you can take like a tablespoon in water, because a tablespoon by itself, it kind of makes your tongue and your mouth numb. It works for tendinitis, and it does the same thing. Is there's an enzyme when you have tendinitis. I took an herb class, and he said when you damage a tendon, it's like kinking a banana. It don't go back. So what the body does is it actually dissolves the tendon and rebuilds it. Well, if you keep injuring it over and over and over again, you're not letting that tendon. So what it does is it slows down that process to give that tendon time to rebuild. Sunscreen. Trying to get sunscreen on him is like trying to get sunscreen on a 2-year-old. So
It's chasing me down for about 3 blocks before she gets there.
So yeah. So actually, the tea bags and the aloe are when someone forgets to put on sunscreen. Tea bags, the tannic acid in tea bags will take the sting out of sunburns. Calamine lotion works on stings and things like that, but what it's really important for and it's really good to have is when you get into poison oak and poison ivy, the rash weeps. So when it weeps, it moves and it spreads. What the calamine lotion does is it dries up that rash, so it gives it a chance to heal. So, and you can still use it on mosquito bites and things like that. It helps, and you poke it out. When I had chicken pox, my mother soaked me in powdered milk and baking soda and dabbed. I looked like this little polka dotted kid, but it's the same. It works the same way with like chicken pox because it dries up that sore and helps it heal. Witch hazel. Great stuff to have. Witch hazel and hydrogen peroxide you can use on mosquito bites. And it takes, what it does is it takes the inflammation, the redness out, because it kind of interacts with the saliva, because the mosquito saliva has like an anticoagulant in it, and that's what we react to. Crushed aspirin can also be used for sores and things like that. Yes?
One thing that I recently discovered about 2 years ago, mosquitoes here in Colorado, you can't hear them. The ones in Pennsylvania, you can hear them coming. Here you can't hear them at all. If you take a spoon and run hot water, heat up the spoon, get the spoon as hot as you can stand it and push it against the mosquito bite. The heat, it gets up to about 140, 150 degrees. That histamine completely breaks down. It stops itching altogether. You still have a bump, but it doesn't.
Oh, that's good to know. And that's what I really like. I've actually been just talking to folks who've gotten really good ideas, and it's kind of a work in progress. What I'm planning on doing is having the different lists and laminate them so I know that I have everything, and if I need to restock something, but I'm afraid to laminate because I don't think I'm quite done yet. Vicks is a really good thing to have, and also a eucalyptus camphor inhaler. Make sure it is non-medicated, because nose sprays and the medicated inhalers, your body becomes dependent on it and you can't breathe without it. My mom did that. She had a heck of a time. She got basically addicted to nose spray, and if she didn't use it, she couldn't breathe. The other fun thing for colds, olive oil in a little dropper bottle. For earaches, works great. And the cool thing about this is the same stuff I cook with. I love olive oil. And let's see, various and sundry things that don't quite fit in any list. And what did I do with it? Here it is. Bear whistle. A whistle is a good idea. Bear whistle even better. These work on we found out in Estes Park, they even work on jaded urban bears that are rifling through your friend's truck, the back of his pickup truck. And they go, we don't like that, and they go off. It can also be used as an emergency whistle because it is very loud, but if you're going to use it as an emergency whistle for any length of time, earplugs, because they'll make your ears ring. All-in-one tools. Candles can they can be emergency light, but they also can give off heat if in a situation. We found, it was a couple winters ago, we the heat or the power went off in our house, and so we lit up a bunch, it was like 4 or 5 oil lamps. It actually raised the temperature of the house 2 degrees. So they work really well. Emergency blankets, here we go. Emergency blankets. They used to call moon blankets. I'm really dating myself. Fabulous. They can keep you warm. They can keep you cool. You can use them as a shelter. They're tough. You can poke holes, make a little, lean-to tent. Yeah, they're less than $1 a piece, and they're nice. Now, trying to get it, as we were laughing, trying to get it back in the bag after you unfold it, not so easy. Yeah. Let's see. Compass. We were actually talking about that, and we said, you know what? We don't have a real live compass, and that might not be a bad idea. And last but not least, first aid book. Let's see, what is this new? W0DAS. Dave reminded me of one of my favorite Einstein quotes. It says, you never memorize anything you can look up. Don't memorize how to tape an ankle if you sprain it, look it up. So, that's a good thing. Always have something like that with you.
Another consideration is some kind of timepiece, because somebody will say, oh, you have to boil this water for
Ooh, I like
5 or 10 minutes to make sure that you've killed all the viruses in it. Well, if your cell phones are not working, then how do you figure out what 5 or 10 minutes is? And that's kind of important, because if you don't do it long enough and it survives, then you've got real problems.
Right, that's a good idea. And even if, for medications, to know how long is 4 hours.
So mechanical time.
Yeah, well, even just mechanical, not something that has batteries. Okay, like I said, it's not a bad idea, and we've already discussed of, basically brushing up on first aid, because things like with CPR, no longer do rescue breathing. It's total compressions, things like that. That changed. It was like, oh, okay. So if you want, this is kind of the dividing place, because now we're going to start into the how to basically keep on hand, and how to do some sourcing. So I can pick this up next time.
I want to be able to copy the list down before.
Oh, sure.
Will your presentation,
Here we go, thank you.
get out of the way. Will your presentation be available? Can you email it?
Sure, I can do that.
I'm gonna probably put it on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
That's why.
And there's some things, and I'll work on for next time. I'll give you a little sneak peek here. I have some recipes and things. Oh,
Got to move it back to slide.
changed it.
slide.
You're almost sure.
Sorry, I'm on rosemary.
these are great things. Again, like I said, cayenne. The weird thing about cayenne is, not only is it, as we discussed, it's a coagulant, it's also a vasodilator. So it has this kind of weird duality. It's really good for, that's why it works well in warming salves. It actually, you can...
What parsley?
Parsley, I know, parsley, rosemary, I knew you were going to say that. I knew I didn't. I almost left him at home, but...
Good for the kids.
It is very good for, and there's just all sorts of things. Those are some of my favorites, and it's stuff that you can get, you can either grow it or, buy it at the grocery store. Cranberry, yeah. Again, it's another good thing is to know how to, again, the treatment or the prevention sort of thing, know what you're kind of prone to. Me, I have really icky sinuses. And I think I missed a slide there because I had cold and allergies. Neti pot. Phil thinks they're absolutely disgusting. But I know if you let a sinus infection go, it becomes an ear infection. And then the ear infection blows your eardrum, and that's no fun. I haven't, thank God, I've had ear infections, but I've never ruptured an eardrum. Also, the thing that works really well for this is if you're around somebody that's sick, it takes 3 days for the virus, the cold virus, to get through the mucous membrane into cells to proliferate. So if you irrigate with saline, and also if you drink warm liquids, that flushes those viruses off the mucous membranes and doesn't allow them a chance to get attached. So.
Where does beer come in there?
Well, you just don't know. You just don't care if you're sick. Yeah. So, any questions or?
Beer has hops, which also is very good at calming and it's nervine, so
See?
there is.
Don't help him out.
Yeah, actually, you know, and this is the other thing. This is, like I said, this is by my stove. This is herb-infused olive oil that I cook with. But you can also add a little beeswax to it, and you end up with a really nice green salve. And it's, again, it's all those wonderful, it's rosemary, no parsley, but it has sage and rosemary and oregano and basil. And this is more balanced for cooking. It has more basil than it does rosemary and thyme, since they have really strong flavors. When I do a green salve, it's balanced. I put equal parts of all the different herbs. And you don't have to, the nice thing about those is if you don't have one, it still works. But all those lovely Italian herbs are antimicrobial, and they are antiviral, as well as tasting wonderful. So yeah, kind of the funny story about green salve, I made it first for my horse because he had this really rasty, nasty brand on the top of his rump that would crack and bleed when it got hot in the summer, hot and dry. So I made this salve and I doctored him all up and I set it down and I went and I put my saddle away and the turkey ate half of it. He had a really nice shiny coat, and I got to the point I had to put it in a small enough container that he couldn't get his nose into, because he would rustle around in my tack trunk and try and find it. So.
What kind of turkeys do you have?
Well, he was a big brown turkey. So we can continue with the sort of the herbal stuff, and I can actually, well, I can probably do it before next time. Get some of the recipes and things on the Facebook. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. So.
Thank you.
Awesome.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.